All right, ladies and gentlemen, the time is now 6:01. And so welcome to the GIP Academy Open House. I am your host, Sonia Jones of GIP Financials, your Mr. Miyagi of Money, and here with the ever so talented, ever so lovely, ever so gorgeous Jacqueline Mercer of Baldwin Financial Services. Yes, so we are going to have a good old time today. All right. So I want to go ahead and get started. So just a little bit about GIP Financials. GIP is an acronym for Get in Position. We are a remote bookkeeping firm headquartered here in Memphis, Tennessee. And what we do, we empower CEOs like you, entrepreneurs and nonprofits, to prioritize their numbers. And we want you guys to position your businesses for profit. I also like to say we like to help entrepreneurs and nonprofits know their numbers to get the funding that they deserve, right? So just FYI, your mission statement, your elevator pitch, it's a living, breathing thing. It's gonna switch up every now and then, depending on who you're talking to. So who we primarily serve, we serve for-profit businesses as well as nonprofits in four specific ways: through bookkeeping and accounting, through tax filing, through what we call funding application assistance, meaning that we are not grant writers, we are not loan underwriters, but we help the numbers that you have tell the story of why you need your funding. And then last but certainly not least, fundamental business finance education, such as GIP Academy. And so our team is as follows. We have Latasha Long, who is our accounting manager and our tax lead. We have Stantasia Murray, who is our staff accountant, Jasmine Barrett, our staff accountant, and Heather Cook, who is our staff accountant. She is also on the call with us tonight. So thank you, Heather, for hanging out with us. And so if you've ever followed GIP, you also, as I just introduced myself earlier as the Mr. Miyagi of Money, I do that for a reason. And I do that because if you remember from the movie The Karate Kid, that Danielson, right, was getting bullied by the Cobra Kai. And from that, that's how he met Mr. Miyagi, or was recommended to see Mr. Miyagi. He thought Mr. Miyagi was going to help him, do some karate and kind of beat up the Cobra Kai. But Mr. Miyagi had his own strategy. He taught him the fundamentals of karate through chores. Then you got a little offended because he's like, I don't know what you're doing, old man. Like, not hired help. Like, this is not cheap labor. I'm trying to, keep him getting beat up. And so Mr. Miyagi was actually showing him through the wax on, wax off, all that paint the floor, sand the fence, how to properly, move his body and perfect the technique of karate. So that's kind of what we do at GIP Financials, right? We meet people where they are with their numbers and how to move them from point A to point B, right? Because I'll be honest, everybody wants funding, right? But we have to, there's some hurdles you got to come across, right? Before you can get to that place. You have to understand some things about organizing your financials, right? And we got to walk you through all those steps to make sure that once it is time for you to apply for that grant or go in front of River City Capital or any other type of bank, that you're putting your best foot forward. And so that's what Jackie and I do in our professions, right? So what we're going to talk about tonight, two big things. One, how GIP Academy can position your business for success, and the best practices to manage your numbers for the rest of 2025. So that's what Jack is going to take us through tonight. And as always, we do have to make sure that we disclaim that the information presented here is for informational purposes, educational purposes only. But look, because my squad run different. So you can take our information and you can take it to your professional, right? I bet you it's going to be pretty much in alignment, right? Of course, depending on the scenario, other people might have, different thoughts and things like that, but I'm pretty sure it's going to stay in alignment, right? And so that's another reason why, especially like when you're going through and exploring your business or going through your business journey, you make sure that you have sound people on your team, right? You want to make sure that you are partnered with the people that are giving similar, if not better, services, right? Than probably you are, because you guys grow from, from one another, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's always about collaboration, never competition, always collaboration. So, what in the world is GIP Academy? And so I'm going to show you guys a nice little commercial, but let me tell you kind of how we came up with the concept of GIP Academy. So if you've ever attended any of our workshops, they're very thorough and it's a lot of information, right? And I know Jackie probably attested to this too. A lot of times, at the feedback that we get, a lot of times is, "Oh, that's a lot of information." It's a
Yeah.
lot of information. But so what I'm supposed to do with all this, right?
Mhm.
And then, in addition to that, a lot of our clients come to us. Either they've had tax preparers and they've worked with like more seasonal tax preparers. So, in the event if they get any type of correspondence from the state or from the IRS, they can't get the support to like, what does this letter even mean? I thought you did my taxes the right way, things, just different things. And even sometimes it might not just be like a letter that something is wrong. It's probably just what I call a hey big head, right? Like, hey big head, you didn't pay your franchise and excise tax. What in the world's franchise and excise tax? That whole type of thing. You just need a resource that you can go to say, like, hey, I don't know what this letter means and how do I navigate that? And so GIP Academy is the answer for that. So what that is, we are an online community that basically can help you navigate through those particular, financial circumstances, and we're year round. So you hang out with us and you get our team, you get our friends of GIP, such as Jackie, and you can get information that we don't share with the rest of the general public, with the exception of tonight. Because, like I said, this is an open house. And so we're just, putting this out there to, make people aware of what GIP Academy is and the benefits that it provides. So let me play the video and y'all let me know if you can hear it.
Are you stressed about taxes? Can't afford a bookkeeper? You're not alone. Many entrepreneurs owe the IRS or haven't filed past taxes because no one taught them how to manage their books. That is why we created GIP Academy, the financial coaching program designed for entrepreneurs who need help but aren't ready to pay for a bookkeeper. For $3 a day, we can help you fix past bookkeeping mistakes, organize your numbers for tax season, and increase profit with simple strategy. Join GIP Academy today and get the financial confidence you deserve.
All right. So was everybody able to hear it?
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. Cool deal. So like I said, we are here to basically help bridge the gap between your financial professional and even like the hurdles that you need to get, like I said, from funding just to file your taxes, even just for you to have some understanding of what's going on with your finances, right? Because we all have been given, God ordained assignments to do special things in the earth, right? And sometimes we can get so caught up in what the assignment is that we don't focus on the back end, right? And how we maintain our profits. Do we even know if we're making a profit? How do we make sure that we are maintaining compliance and things like that? So that's what this academy is for. And the three big benefits of GIP Academy is, one, you're going to get an online resource academy, which is housed in our GIP Academy website. It's a membership site. In all of our previous webinars that were for purchase are accessible to the community, including the most recent grant lab. So it hadn't been uploaded yet, but we are going to upload the grant lab that we held on June the 7th. It will be accessible to the GIP Academy members as well. Hopefully we should have that up by July. Next thing you're going to have is every month, like we're meeting right now, we normally meet on the third Thursday of the month. Of course, we had to fix some things around because I was in Canada last week. But on the third Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, we meet together to talk about specific topics. And if you go to our website, under GIP Academy and also in our events area, you'll be able to see our whole schedule for the rest of 2025 and what we're going to be talking about. And then last but certainly not least, to me, I feel like this is the biggest part of the value is that once a quarter, while you're working on your bookkeeping, you get to meet with me, Latasha, Heather, Tay, depending on whoever's available, right? To go over what you've done for your bookkeeping. We're going to coach you on what needs to be adjusted. We're going to ask you questions, about your expenses. We're going to ask you if those expenses are ordinary and necessary, per the IRS, things like that, just so you're aware of how you're organizing your finances. I think, like I said, that's probably the biggest value of GIP Academy, and you get all of this for less than Starbucks every day, right? So it's $97 a month, and this because of what we do in GIP Academy, this is definitely a tax deductible expense for your business because it is definitely ordinary and it's sure enough necessary for your business. Okay. And I definitely want to make sure too that I honor our GIP Academy members that are here tonight. So we have Miss Samantha Gillian that is here, and our newest member, Miss Samaria Garrett. So giving y'all a round of applause. Welcome our GIP Academy members that are here tonight. Okay. And so, like I said, if you have any questions about GIP Academy, you can definitely reach out to me, um, either during, after our Q&A, after Jackie presents, and then if you want to email afterwards, that's definitely fine as well. So before Jackie comes up, I want to make sure that we are in proper mindset. So always remember, and I have to do this for myself, child. You always have to remember, why did you start your business? Can I be transparent for a second? Because I was telling Jackie, like, girl, we got to talk because I got some war stories. Because y'all, I was telling the Lord earlier, I was like, now look, I ain't even want to start another business after that real estate business. I ain't even want to start another business. And here you go. I was fussing big time. I'll try not to crash out. But it's like that sometimes in your business, right? Sometimes, you're going to have those highs, but then, you're going to experience, some lows and just some periods of like, Lord, why did I even decide to do this? Right. But at the end of the day, at the same time while I was fussing at the Lord about, I didn't even want to do this business and all that stuff like that. When we were in Canada, one of the young ladies that presented was Dr. Nadine Duncan, and she was one of our mentees in the Our Village United her pro bono program. And so we helped her through that program get her budget together because she was applying for some grants. Y'all, don't you know that since we worked with Dr. Nadine, she has gotten over $30,000 in grants, and to the point where she is now presenting to other travel creators and hosting workshops on how to get grants. So that's why I was like, the Holy Spirit was like, see there. Right? So you always got to remember your why, even if it's just, that one person that you give them enough inspiration to get them to move forward in their business. All it takes is one, y'all. I know you hear that all the time in business, webinar stuff. All it takes is one, right? So I always want to make sure that I encourage y'all with that. So with that being said, let me introduce the lady of the hour, right? Miss Jackie Mercer of Baldwin Financial Services, and I have her bio right here. And so Jacqueline is a senior accountant for a top Fortune 100 company and founder of Baldwin Financial Services. Jacqueline has a sincere passion to see small businesses thrive. I can attest to that. Originally from a small town in North Carolina, Jacqueline was immediately drawn to the entrepreneurial presence in Memphis, Tennessee. And as an avid consumer and supporter of many small businesses, Jackie felt a strong desire to ensure these businesses were financially successful. With over 20 years of collaborative experience in accounting, finance, operating budgets, and negotiating commercial contracts, Jackie knew she could offer a beneficial service that will help ensure small businesses maximize profits and minimize financial losses. So we talking to a vet. We got a vet on. Jackie's initial exposure to accounting and finance started as a senior in high school, where she was intrigued with accounting principles and record keeping. She later joined the Future Business Leaders of America. I remember that
I
organization. I
know,
was
right?
part of it. I remember, yeah. And became more immersed in the fundamentals of business administration and general business practices. So Jacqueline is magna cum laude graduate of North Carolina A&T University, where she earned her Bachelor of Science degree in accounting. She held many high honors throughout academia, including Golden Key National Honor Society. I was part of Golden Key. Dean's List and participated in the Accounting Club and Toastmasters Public Speaking Club. Upon graduation, Jackie moved to Memphis to start her accounting career. In her current role of work, she is highly regarded and thought of as a key contributor, skilled worker, and team player. And Jackie is excited to offer her experience and service. That's why she on here today. She on here with us. We're gonna get
I
this
tell you,
knowledge.
I have never heard that read aloud before. You did an amazing job.
I'm here to hype you up, baby. That's what I do.
I'm hyped.
Get crunk. Yes, so ladies and gentlemen, so like I said, Jackie's started with us by giving us an amazing demonstration on what is Wave, the Wave accounting software. And man, just that presentation alone, not only did we do the podcast episode, but we also did a live Q&A that's on our YouTube channel. So make sure you guys check that out. And I tell you, I hope that you got pencil and paper tonight, because Jackie finna give it. I got my pencil and paper. So I want to be taking some notes as well. So without further ado, I'm going to stop my share. All right, so let's give it up for Miss Jackie Mercer. Teach.
Oh, thank you so much, Sonia. That that was an amazing introduction. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to your platform with GIP Academy. So just give me a moment, everyone, to get to my screen and share it. And I will say, if there are questions, so do you have a chat going on where they can
Yes.
put in quick? Okay, so if there's any questions, maybe just put it in the chat, and then Sonia, if you'll just kind of stop me and I can address questions to kind of keep it, a good flow.
You got it.
Right. Let's see. Can you see my screen yet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So this is a mid-year review, and really the purpose of this, and I think all of this flows in so well with how Sonia thought, you use the GIP Academy tools and do your bookkeeping, consult with her team. And by this time in the year, we're halfway over. I mean, 2025 has gone by fast. So we really want to think about, as business owners and even as nonprofit organizations, what should we be thinking about in terms of our financials? So just a little bit about myself. This is Sonia did a very amazing job. But Baldwin Financial Services is in honor of my family's name, Baldwin. My name is Jackie Mercer. I'm the founder of BFS and senior accountant, located here in Memphis. Bachelor's in accounting from the greatest HBCU in the land, North Carolina A&T. My master's of accountancy is projected to be completed this year. I have a 25-year career in corporate accounting, tax, and procurement. I've been a business owner since 2020. So Baldwin Financial was rooted as a result of the pandemic. So just as Sonia was talking about, there were so many business owners that was looking for funding, particularly in 2020. And that's really when Baldwin Financial got its legs and started to run, and now we're starting to fly a little bit. Baldwin Financial Services small businesses for a nonprofit, as well as serving as treasurer on 3 political campaign committees. the services that we provide are similar to GIP, bookkeeping and tax prep. But we also not necessarily focusing on the grants, but we do payroll and consulting service. My passion is to see small businesses thrive and the dollars circulate within the community. And my mantra is small businesses are the cornerstone of the US economy. So, my goal is really just to be a resource to business owners that I feel like these large corporate giants receive. And so I want to be that for businesses. So today we're going to talk about top 5 mid-year review essentials. We're going to talk about accounts receivables and why you should start with accounts receivable. Those are essentially your invoices and what services and what people owe you or your customers owe you. Then we're going to go into margins, cash flow, your targets for the year, and we're going to wrap up with taxes. Okay, so accounts receivable. Typically, what I've seen is a lot of business owners and even nonprofits want to start with profit. Well, not or sales or revenue, or in nonprofit world grants. Yeah, they want to start with the revenue, but new revenue. But you really should start with accounts receivable. And why is that? That's because this is your low hanging fruit, okay, for cash generation. The invoices have been generated, and if they have not been generated, at minimum, the conversation has started for these services or products. Your rapport is already established, so you don't have to market yourself. You do not have to invest in additional marketing. And this is, like I said, just the low grab. So you always want to look at your invoices and your receivables. Now, if you are doing your bookkeeping, whether it's do it yourself or you've hired a professional, there are actual accounts receivable reports in all of your general ledger software. So you can, if everything is coded correctly, you should be able to just run this report out of your ledger software. If not, you should be able to run it out of your point of sale system. So however you are generating your sales, you should be able to have a report where you can see, hey, this is the open invoices, and this is, who owes my organization funds. If the funds have not been paid or they've been lingering out there, you want to go ahead and create on-demand letters to see if they can settle up, or even possibly renegotiate payment terms to get the sale. And if all else fails, you want to write off anything that's uncollectible to avoid inaccurate financial reports. So the way the software works for bookkeeping is when you have your invoices out there, it automatically reports as a sale, as revenue. So if you are not going to collect on that invoice, then you want to go ahead and either cancel it out. I recommend do not delete it, but you either want to cancel it out or put a credit item for the amount of that same invoice so that it zeroes out. Any questions so far? Okay. All right, let's get into margins. So once you have went to your low hanging fruit, that's like, to me, I think about an apple tree and it's an apple just hanging there. That's your accounts receivable. You want to look at your margin. So this is your gross sales. You want to start with your gross margin, and the calculation for this is gross sales minus cost to serve divided by sales. Okay, a margin is always a percentage. And if you notice, I said start with gross margin. So what is gross margin? Gross margin is going to be the cost it actually takes you to make your product or generate your service. So it's before your advertising comes in. It's before your rent comes in. It's before anything that's not related to actually producing that product or service. That's the first margin you want to look at. And of course, the higher the percentage, the better. So you want, high margins, high 100% is the highest. I just spoke about that. This is just my point of view. If you calculate this and your percentage is lower than 75%, there's work to do. That doesn't mean it's bad. It just means there's work to do. Um, and again, this will be on a report in your software. So typically you will see your gross sales minus your, if everything's coded correctly. That's why it's very important to utilize the academy or your professionals to make sure everything's coded. And then you'll get that margin, and that's where you'll want to evaluate it. Now, when your margin is, when you look at your margin, you have two choices. If it's not where you want it to be, you can increase sales or you can reduce costs. Those are your only two choices to get it higher. So in order to increase sales, you got to increase your price, you got to increase your volume, or both. Okay. To get that top number higher. So you always want your sales higher and your expenses lower. Your prices at this point in time should reflect inflationary changes. So inflation has been all over the place, double digit, at one point in 2020, then it flagged. Now, if your prices are the same that they were 5 years ago, that is, I can guarantee you, the bulk of your problem. So you want to make sure, if you've been in business at least 5 years, that your prices reflect the changes that are happening in the economy, because otherwise you're never going to be able to catch up. Or your volume is going to be so unmanageable that you have to increase costs to manage your volume. So there's just no way around inflation. So once you review that gross margin, you want to look into that operating margin and apply the same strategy. You want to say, hey, are these costs representative of what I'm paying as a gross cost? You have to think kind of like those corporate giants. Do I have too many contractors? Can I merge roles? And things like rent and things, when you have a more productive or more profitable month, can you catch up on your rent for a few months, so in those slow months it's not a strain. So those are the things you want to look at when it comes to margin. And this is just me you cannot survive, the business will not survive if it does not align with inflation costs to serve increases. So your raw materials, you just cannot, the things that are going directly into business. And I know over time we may, we're friendly with our customers, they become family, etc. But we are all running businesses, and the reality of it is, you may or you may not lose a customer because their business may not be in position. But if you think about it, if all businesses are doing this, everybody's going to be able to eat, as they say. Any questions about the margin review?
Nothing in the chat so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Can you go over what the cost to serve is? Because when I first saw it, I thought this would be like the cost that it takes to run your business. But then I heard you say like it doesn't account for like marketing and rent. So can you say like what that is again?
I sure can. Thank you. Thank you for the clarifying question. So cost to serve is also synonymous with cost of services, cost of goods sold, but it's your direct cost. So when you think about your cost, you have direct cost and you have indirect cost. Your direct cost, so for example, and I use my business as one. So I'm an accountant and do bookkeeping and payroll. So some of my direct costs would be my payroll software. I can't provide payroll without a payroll provider. So that is a direct cost. What is your business, if you mind me asking? Your type of business, and I can give an example.
Healthcare.
Healthcare. Okay. Can you be a little bit more?
Yes, I'm a dietitian.
What's that? Dietitian?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So let's say with dietitian, let me think about that. So
would it be like my EMR, my electronic medical record?
Is that what you use to generate a sale? It has to go directly back to the sale. So you don't have, so for example, you don't have to advertise to generate a sale. It helps sales, but it doesn't actually make a sale. So like the software that you're providing, if there's no way, the EMR, if there's no way for you to generate your sale without that software, then yes, that would be a direct cost because you have to have it to deliver. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Let me give it another example. So like let's say if this is a landscaping business and the landscaper has to have lawn treatment, chemicals, the lawnmower, those you cannot, regardless of how much you advertise, you cannot you cannot do the work without those services. So that's how you think about that. So before you even think about advertising and think about, hey, I want to get this big lofty place to rent my office, you have to say, hey, are my expenses in line to actually provide the service? Does that make sense?
Yes,
Did
I
I
think I probably would need to like look over that again because I think as a dietitian, like there's not much that I have to do to
yeah.
provide it. Like to say it's sales, so I wonder like is it my license fee? I think I probably would need to like go deeper into like what that really looks like. But I get the concept. I just don't know what that looks like for me.
Yeah, and that's a good point. All businesses, they may have more indirect expenses than they do direct, and that's fine.
Okay.
It's just the starting point. The starting point should always be the gross, is what I'm trying to convey. So if all of yours are operating expenses, hey, my license, my software, then your business may just not have a big uh cost of goods services or cost of goods sold, and that's fine. So your next step would just be to go into the op-eds and say, hey, does these align with what I'm bringing in? And
Hmm.
in your position it would be more so the inflationary cost that you want to look at. So if the pricing and your software has gone up 3%, 4% over the last few years, you need to make sure that your sales reflect that in your pricing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Great. All right, let's push on to cash flow. So, cash flow, just to be clear, once everything is categorized correctly in your books, it's very, very important to understand that large profits does not equal cash flow. Okay. That, and it's typically, in my experience, one or two things that's tighten up cash flow outside of your sales and expenses that we just talked about. It's going to be excessive owner's draw. So either you are just the business owner is making draws out the business for their personal expenses, which I get it, we all have to live, but it's not enough to cover the sales and the expenses that are coming into the business, so you end up having a tight cash flow. Also excessive loan payables. So your loans aren't necessarily reflected on your profit and loss statement because they're on another financial statement. So you can have a great profit, but because you're paying off a loan outside of the interest would go on the profit and loss statement, but that principal goes on another statement. So it may look one way when you are looking at your profit and loss that you're actually a profitable business, but because your money is being tied up into these loans, you have a tight cash flow. So what you want to do with cash flow is once everything is categorized correctly for the month, you want to pull the cash flow statement. And you want to look at that statement to say, hey, where is most of my cash going? And it will be divided in these three segments here: operating, investing, and financing. Most of the expenses will be in operating. So that's what it takes to run your business. But where you want to zone into is, just like I said, those payables and those and draws. So you owner's draws. So you want to make sure, hey, am I am I spending everything that's bringing, that's coming in? Do I have enough for a cash reserve? You also want to review your loan amortization schedule. So anytime you take out a loan, whether it's the SBA or anything, when you have a loan, they're going to have an amortization schedule, and that's going to show you when this loan is supposed to be paid off and how much interest you're going to pay over time, and when that last payment will occur. So you need to know that in terms of like, this is when my cash would be open up more because this loan will be paid off. Similar to like your car note, and you pay your car note off and you don't have any more car notes because it's gone. Kind of same concept. So now you have more cash, but this is for business purposes. This is just a tip here in the highlight. Cash inflows. When you do run your statement, you'll see something that says cash inflows and cash outflows. Cash inflows are all the cash just coming into your business. So whether it's through your sales, if you're nonprofit, your grants, or whether it's through contributions. If you have other streams of revenue and you're depositing it into your business, those are all your cash inflows. Your cash outflows are everything that comes out the business. And so if your cash outflows is greater than inflows, you're bleeding. You're eventually going to go in the hole because you're not bringing in enough to take over what's going out. Now, if it's the opposite, if cash outflows is less than inflows, that's where you want to be, because you want more cash coming in than you do going out. Any questions on cash flow? So this is the third check for mid-year. So we talked about, look at your open invoices, look at your margin, start with gross, then move into operating. Then look at your cash flow. So any questions so far about cash flow? No?
No questions, but my 3 favorite words: swiping, no swiping.
Yep, swiping. Right.
Swiping, no swiping.
Yep.
Yeah, do it.
They'll do it. And when you look at again, when you look at the statements that's coming out your systems, if you're just looking at that profit and loss, you have to look a little bit deeper, because it's not going to tell the full story. Because a lot of what we see is a lot of business owners get stuck on the profit and loss, but they're like, well, I don't see my money. Where's my money? This is saying I'm making money. Well, that's because you've been drawing most of it. Like Sonia said, you've been swiping your card too much. It's getting eat up by all of these loans that you have to pay. So this is another step. That's why cash flow statement is so very important. Okay. All right, let's talk about targets and goals. So I first want to kind of just talk about my point of view in terms of a professional tip. At this point of the year, you really want to focus on what you can fully achieve over the next 6 months. And then whatever you cannot, it's okay, defer it to 2026. What you don't want to do is start making all these small little goals and you can't complete. You might have 12 goals and you only halfway through 12 goals. So from my perspective, it's more productive to complete the one and defer the rest. And if it even makes sense, to keep it as a goal in the following year. So any goals that you've established at the beginning of the year, you want to ask yourself, did you achieve them? If not, what were the roadblocks? Very simple. It's like that's just the first layer. It's like, hey, most my personal side, I do vision boards personally for myself and my family at the beginning of the year. So similar to the business, I have a business vision for myself, for my business, at the beginning of the year. And so you want to ask mid-year, where are you at with those goals? Okay, so I want to do a deeper dive into your gross sales in terms of target and goals. And this is why you want to look at your margins and where you are today, and then you want to apply the target and the goal. So you want to identify your top producing customers. So who are your top 5? Who are your top 10? Hey, if this one customer leaves, where does that leave my business? If this one product leaves, where does this leave my business? So you want to kind of slice and dice and understand who and what really brings in your revenue. Um, and the third bullet is upsell. McDonald's, you want fries with that? That's kind of the same concept. So if you are in a business, let's say like mine, and I have a bookkeeping client, hey, we do tax prep too. Are you interested in coming on board for taxes this year? So that's kind of what you want to do, and maybe even think about presenting it as a bundling option, so that you are that so it's an incentive to the customer. There are two calculations that I think are key. That is annualized sales. So that is basically taken at the end of June. Your half a year books will be complete. So once June 30th hits and you start doing your books in July, that you have half a year. You want to take that sales number, multiply it by 2. That's going to give you what's called an annualization number. That's going to say if the first part of the year, I'm sorry, if the second part of the year is the same as the first part of the year, this is how my business is going to come out. Okay. Now I know it's a estimate, but it's a good kind of way to think about it, because you know what you did in the first half of the year, and you know what not to do or what to do better. So that is why that's an important data point. You also want to calculate average sales. So of course the con with average is the average. It could be lower or higher, but it's a good indication to kind of look and see, on average, my business brings in this a month. Do I want to be lower than that number? Do I want to be higher than that number? Or hey, I'm okay with that number. As long as I make that mark every month, I'm all right. So you want to look at those two data points. And then you want to do a monthly trend. You want to do a trend analysis. And the monthly report is typically available in most software systems. But you want to look at your January through June and say, hey, what was my highest producing month? Why was it the highest? And then you want to look at those two things that we talked about. You want to look at the highest from the growth standpoint and the net standpoint, because if you have a high gross, but then a low number, a low net, then you know that something's going on where you're spending too much money on your business and it's not generating. You're making the money, but you're spending it all. So you want to look at those data points. And then after you combine all of those, you want to calculate a new sales goal for the end of the year. And it may or may not align with the one at the top, but that's where you want to kind of say, hey, what is actually achievable at this point? Okay. Any questions on targets and goals?
We don't have any questions, but I definitely want to just agree with you like 150 million%. Because what we're doing at GIP, we're taking the next probably 2 or 3 months. Like we're not doing any podcasting, just to really to pivot. And we basically had to strip. I went through that whole profit and loss, right? So like
Mhm.
what we're spending money on, is it actually bringing us an ROI,
Mhm.
right? Um, I know y'all were liking that good old content, but I had to put them over to the side as well. So you
Yep.
just have to, you have to be realistic. And just like Jackie said, like if you're looking at your seasons and how your revenue is coming in, um, it's just you have to do that. I mean, to the point where like Latasha and I were talking about GIP, to the point like we're going back to look at our bookkeeping clients versus like our monthly clients versus our project-based clients, right? What
Yep.
products and services are our bookkeeping people? Because most of them have shifted to a sense depending on what they're doing. One of the things that we noticed that we weren't adding before was like state compliance and
Mhm.
taxes. So
Mhm.
we're adding now F&E, right?
Mhm.
Sales tax, business tax, because most of our clients, boy, they don't have a clue. So we're
Mhm.
adding that as part of our bookkeeping component. Like she was saying, like be very in tune with how your customers are moving and like the questions that they're asking you. And then when they come to you for discovery calls or consultations, what are they most commonly, talking about? And use that intel to help you kind of repackage, the things that you're selling. So
Yep. Yep, and I love that you talk about GIP, and because we're accountants and bookkeepers, and we have to do the same thing for our businesses. And actually one of my reports that I look at probably at least every month, but probably every other week is that cash flow, because it combines my draws plus my expenses. And I'm constantly thinking about, hey, who's my recurring clients, who's my project clients, hey, what happened, what percentage of my recurring revenue versus my project revenue, what. So we are all thinking the same. So very, very, very good points. Okay, and Sonia, you called it, going right into the taxes. Everybody sees Uncle Sam up there taking the dollars. He has to have his cut. And I always say Uncle Sam has a sister, a brother, a mother, because you have your state taxes, your payroll taxes, your franchise and excess taxes, your business taxes. So we're going to talk a bit about taxes. If you first and foremost in any tax strategy, you have to understand, and compliance, you have to understand your entity type. Okay, you have to understand, are you a LLC or a sole prop, and what is the difference? And if you don't know the difference, definitely work with GIP or professional to understand what the tax implication between those differences are, because there's a legal implication and there's a tax implication, and the tax implication impacts the way that your books are prepared. But in the eyes of the IRS, LLCs and sole props are the same thing. They're the same. So if your business is expected to owe, and that is a typo, I'm sorry, expected to owe taxes over $1,000 for the year, an estimated payment is required. That means you have to send in a payment to the IRS to pay what you think you owe. Okay. And if you owe less, they're refunded. If you owe more, you have another bill to pay at April 15th. Always use your profit and loss statement as a guide on how much to pay. The IRS.gov has official payment schedules. Now, one thing, and this is actually how Sonia and I met, it was bonding over the hot topic of S corps. So if you are an S corp, this is the time of the year that you want to make sure that you are have a reasonable salary. So the whole thing with S corps is you get tax-free withdrawals, but the offset is you have to pay payroll tax. So and your payroll tax has to be based off of. I'm sorry, what's that?
Sorry.
Oh, okay, no problem. Okay, your payroll tax has to be based off a reasonable salary. So, and a reasonable salary means it has to be something that is reasonable for your industry, for your years of experience, and for your region. So you can't say that, hey, I'm let's say I'm a dietitian, and I'm only making $5,000 a year, so that's all that's going to be taxed. Well, if we look up dietitian, they're probably making more than $5,000 a year. So you want to make sure that you are in payroll compliance, because the last thing you want to do is at the end of the year, you have to pay pay yourself out pretty much a huge salary to be in compliance. So the IRS does not come back and say, no, we think this is your reasonable salary. So you also want to look at tax strategy. Does it make sense to S Corp? There are certain recommended thresholds for businesses to generate for S Corps. If you want a C Corp, if you want to save more, although it's a double taxation, if you feel like you're going to save more, to have those conversations, this is the time to start. You cannot absolutely have these conversations in April. You're going to have to wait the whole year, and particularly with the certain paperwork that has to be filed with the IRS, you're going to have to wait for the following year to get started. So you want to at least start thinking about it, and then connect with your professional by Q4 if this is the route that you want to go. We talked about this. We talked about the states. So the first thing I want to hit on is state income tax. Okay. Particularly with businesses that are remote and virtual, If you have clients in other states, you may be subject to income tax, okay, depending on that state. So each state has a different statute. They have a different rule. They're 50 states. They all do their own thing. So some states like Tennessee does not have income tax, so you're good. But some states like Georgia do. So if you have a client in Georgia, you need to understand what are the income thresholds. If my business generates this much, how much do I owe to the state of Georgia? Um, and then last but not least, and Sonia hit on this, franchise and excess tax, sales and use, food and beverage. Those are your state local taxes that the state of Tennessee or maybe looking for, or wherever your nexus is. So that's your physical presence for your business, whether it's in Mississippi. If you live in Mississippi and you have a home-based business, and you're selling a product, you have to tack on that Mississippi sales tax. So the state of Tennessee, if you make over $100,000 in gross revenue, you have to file a business return. But then some of the businesses are exempt. So you really have to kind of, as a last step before the year is over, because the last thing you want is a letter from the state saying that, hey, you owe us some money, and we can put, particularly if you're a brick and mortar, if it's not paid, they can, they can put a padlock on your door. So you want this. Do not overlook the state taxes.
So we do
I know
have
I said a mouthful there. I was a little passionate about that because I have it. It's a lot of people like to start and stop at IRS, but there's so much more to taxes. So
yeah, the state of Tennessee, especially state of Tennessee, they'll be like, "Hey, big head."
yeah, they will.
Yeah.
They will. But I
Yeah.
will say they do have payment plans, and IRS has
Mhm.
payment plans, and they're typically, I think, reasonable.
Yeah. So Robin Tucker has a question. Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, thank
Hey,
you.
Robin.
Hi, how are you? So I have a question. So the first point that you made about the LLC and sole props, tax liability. So if you're filing, because my business is about 4 years old now, and so I've been filing it as a Schedule C, with my taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So on the tax liability, I just want to make sure I understood. So you said if you're paying over $1,000 in taxes, you have to do it estimated. I wanted to make sure I was clear on what you were saying on that first point.
Yep. Okay. So if it sounds like your business is a LLC, has been in business 4 years, you file a Schedule C. So the $1,000 requirement is if your business at the end of that calendar year is expected to owe $1,000 or more in taxes, your business is required to send the estimated payment throughout the year to the IRS. So
Okay.
you, and the way, Robin, the way to figure that out, and this is just my guidance, you would take your profit and loss statement from your bookkeeping that you're doing throughout the year, and of course, this is just a swag, but you would take your taxable income would be that last number at the bottom of the profit and loss statement. So after all of your gross minus your cost of goods sold minus your expenses. So whatever that number is, I suggest taking 25% of that number divided by 4, and that is your estimated payment for each quarter for the IRS. Now, depending on when you file your taxes, now that's just a swag. It could be less. Now, if you're filing jointly, if you have children, dependents of parents or children dependents, then that 25% is lower, but that's just a baseline. Or if you're in a certain income bracket, it could be higher. So, but that is just a general guidance of how to come up with that number.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay. Any other questions?
Nope, I don't see any other questions in the chat.
Okay. All right. So we just push through. Okay, so this is just any other questions that we did not handle or get to throughout the presentation, this is just a time to open it up to the floor, or if there's any commentary. Maybe you don't have a question, maybe you have an experience with something that you've seen today, that you want to elaborate on with the group of people that's here today. Okay. Nothing. All right. Well, this wraps my session up. I just want to thank Sonia again for inviting me to her platform. I always love to tell our story. We met over S Corps and through Facebook, and it went down in our DM. So we were just going back and forth and said, hey, we need to have lunch. And we traded up war stories, and we are industry friends. And we learn, I learned so much. I look up to Sonia and her team. So thank you so much. If you, anyone on the phone, if you want to take a quick snapshot of how to get in touch with Baldwin Financial, there is the phone number. If you want to follow us on Instagram, I do weekly tips on taxes and bookkeeping. I do try to keep the page a little bit clean. So if you do see a tip on there, I suggest that you save it and then save it to your phone, because it might not be there in 3 more weeks or so. To contact me, that's the Baldwin Financial Services webpage. And you can just go to the contact me page, fill out the form. And then the email, company email is the first one there. And then my direct email is there at the bottom. And again, thank you so much. That's all I have today.
All right. So y'all give it up for I told you you're gonna get all that good information today. Right? So I took some notes. I took 2 pages of notes, right? Because especially as GIP is going through its pivot, right? There were just definitely some things that, you know how it is one time if you already kind of have an inkling of things, but if somebody else says it, it kind of like opens the door for other thoughts that you have, right? And so, and y'all, let me just say this. I tell nonprofits all the time, like a budget is a living, breathing document. Stuff like this, you just got to get in the habit of doing, right? And especially if we're, going through this entrepreneurial journey, right? I always say too, you are not your numbers. You have to separate, right, how your business is performing from you yourself. Because sometimes, like, especially if people come to us for a discovery call, they come in the gate apologizing. I'm a scrub. I don't know what I did. Oh, I did, right? But unfortunately, we learn by doing that. Sometimes there might be some things that, that ball of yarn may be real tangled. Sometimes we can untangle it. Sometimes we might need some friends to help you untangle it, right? And that's why having the benefit of having a professional resource, right, is important, because what you may think is like super devastating, it may just resolve in a phone call, especially when it comes to the IRS. So we got so many, prospective clients that come to us that like have not filed taxes in years, right? And always say like, hey, the IRS has a payment plan. Just talk to them. Just
Yeah.
talk to them. Like that's the least you can do to see what how you can get this thing resolved, right? Because even if, like Jackie was saying, if you don't comply with it, at least just making some type of arrangement, right? They're gonna assume that you just ghosting, and then they're gonna make the decision to take whatever necessary action they have to take to ensure that they get paid, right? And sometimes we don't want to, because sometimes it can be aggressive,
Yeah.
right? So just make sure that if nothing else that you talk to them. I can definitely say with the Tennessee Department of Revenue, I've been on a couple of their webinars and stuff. They're really cool people, right? They have a wealth of knowledge on YouTube and things like that. So, just don't go in there just automatically scared. Just tap into some resources and see what other people have for you to, be able to help you out. Right. And so like I said, that's why Jackie is here. We're here, and especially like I'm gonna keep saying too, like, look, if y'all see stuff on social media and it sounds too good to be true, message
Yeah.
Jackie, message us. I promise you, 9 times out of 10, it is too true. A lot of folks are sitting up here deliberately, you know, hiding information or probably they just omitting information, right? Especially with that dang blasted escort. Especially with
Yes,
that.
it's one of the worst ones. Yes.
Man,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Because all
I've
you
had an
have to make,
escort for 10 years,
yeah,
but I never paid payroll.
no.
You don't.
That's always the biggest giveaway. Somebody
Yeah.
told me that I need to do an escort because it's gonna help me save money on my taxes, but they never tell you that in order for you to save money on your taxes as an escort, you have to be making a considerable amount of profit to even
Yeah.
take advantage of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, child, yeah.
It
More
is.
so,
Yeah. And your tax return fees go up because now you have two returns. You have a corporate return and you have to have eyes on your reasonable salary. So it needs to make sense. Yeah.
it
So
has to make sense.
yeah.
Oh, and another thing that I wanted to mention too, the Tennessee Department of Revenue, I think it was like late last year or early this year, they did a webinar on marketplace facilitators.
Mm,
So if there are any of y'all on here, because I have a client, that's a bakery and they use like DoorDash and Uber Eats and
mhm,
things like Grubhub and things like that. If you guys are using or have like an Amazon store or something like that, please be very clear on if they are paying those taxes on your behalf, right?
mm,
Because the Tennessee Department of Revenue specifically said that, especially like food deliveries, companies are not considered marketplace facilitators. Amazon is, but
mm,
also too, they also said just make sure to check because you don't know if they have a threshold, stuff
mhm,
like that, because you don't want to get caught up assuming, right? Especially if you have a Shopify store and things like that. Just because Shopify has like a sales tax thing where they help you set it up, you can't assume that Shopify is paying anything on your behalf. They're just recording the sales, the taxable sales, the amount of sales tax that was collected. That means you should have it in your bank account to give to them every month or every year, whatever how you got it set up, preferably every month because you don't want to get caught up like
yeah,
that. So yeah, so I just
yeah,
want to make sure that I said that as well because that was new to me and I had to go back and do some research and look in that big old tax manual. Trying to figure
yeah,
that out. So that's a big deal. And also digital products as well. So if you're selling digital products, you're subject to sales tax as well.
mm, yeah. And then just to add on to that, Sonia, it change like it's changes,
Mhm.
particularly in the digital space, and there's more, when you think about AI and where the everything was 10 years ago, software as a
Right.
service, like you said, those digital products, you really have to, I would say, every year when I end up with taxes, you want to understand what is the current law in place for my product and service because it may be different from the prior year for your
Mhm.
state.
Right. Yep, exactly. So another reason why you need a professional, right?
Yeah.
So love it, love it, love it. So thank you, Jackie. I
Thank you.
appreciate you, love book. All right, so swap screen shares with me. I'm gonna go back to my PowerPoint right quick, and we are
I, should,
gonna wrap.
I shouldn't be sharing. I'm not sharing anything, Emma. I should be out.
No, you're good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're good. You're good. And so, all right. So I just wanted to make sure as we're closing out, how you can stay in touch with GIP. Jackie gave her information already, so go ahead and follow her. If you're on Instagram, follow her right now. Go ahead and do that. But we have a podcast from Chaos to Clarity, Unleash Your Business Potential. Like I said, right now we are taking a siesta. Like I'm trying to think, like, how do I maintain consistency, right? So like I had to, tell my wonderful podcast producer, Ray, I was like, child, I love you, right? Well, we made some adjustments. So you might see somebody do some live streams, right? But either way, this information is still on our YouTube channel. If you want to like pick my brain, this is the best way to pick it on our podcast. If you go to gipfinancials.com, you see all the different podcast platforms and all like Spotify, Apple, and all that. But you can always go to the YouTube channel as well. And like I said, Jackie and I did a podcast episode on Wave. So if you're looking for something that's not QuickBooks, Wave is definitely an option, and Jackie is the Wave guru. So you can go back and check her demo because man, baby, she laid it out. It's over an hour, baby, of information. She laid it down, right? And so, but then also, if you want more information on GIP Academy, this is Miss Tori Jones. She was our very first GIP Academy member. Phenomenal STEM teacher from Mississippi. She's now residing in Texas with her family, but she does STEM contracts through some of the school systems with Mississippi. So she's definitely just check out that episode so you can hear how Tori, took accountability for her numbers. And when I tell you, like, she's a dynamo, she is definitely a dynamo to the point where she now has enough profit so she can make some decisions on like hiring more contracted people to apply for more contracts in the state of Mississippi and also in Texas, right? So yeah, so Tori is doing the thing. So definitely check out that particular podcast if you're interested in GIP Academy. And so as always, here's all my information. Again, if you want information about, you have questions, after this, because we will share the replay of this on our YouTube channel. We'll also share it on our email list as well. You can reach out to me via email info@gipfinancials.com and make sure that you follow us on all platforms. I'm also on LinkedIn under Sonia Jones as well. So you guys, let me see. I think our next GIP Academy session is the 17th of July. And I believe we're going to be talking about grants on that one. All right. So even if you have people that may not be interested in GIP Academy right now, we do offer drop-ins. So for a nominal fee, they can come in and hang out with us, right? But we also want to make sure we do that because we never want to, you know, dishonor the members who have already subscribed, right? So we always want to make sure that we honor them as well. So y'all, it has been real. Jackie, again, thank you so much, love bug,
You are welcome. Thank you.
with us. And y'all have an amazing evening. Heather, there she is. That's one of
Hey
my staff.
guys.
You want to
Yeah.
say something, Heather? What you want to say, love?
I'm in awe of Jackie. She's smart.
Yeah, no,
I like surrounding myself with smart people.
Thank you, Heather. Nice to meet you.
You too.
yes, ma'am. So
I know
again,
you are in the right place. GIP
Mhm.
Academy is. I just support and love everything that Sonia's doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So yeah, we just love to educate, man. Meet people where they are. And y'all look, if y'all are needing help with your LinkedIn profile, resume, cleanups and all of that, Robin Wilson Tucker, Wilson Consultant LLC. She is the woman for the job. So make sure that you reach out and hook up with Robin Wilson Tucker. She is that lady. All right. And she's also on one of our podcast episodes too. You check out on YouTube channel.
Cool.
All right. So y'all have an amazing evening. I got some work to do. Heather only like, get off here so you do that work. All right. Well, y'all have an amazing evening and we will see you guys next month.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great
Take
good
care.
one. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.